Hey, Wixman Ray here. We are, what is today? Monday, right? Today's Monday, right? Monday, April 27th, 2026. When you're kind of semi-retired like me, you forget what day it is. Yeah, so it's Monday, April 27th, 2026. It's about 5:15 on in the Central Time Zone. That's 3:15 out on the West Coast and 6:15 out on the East Coast. So here we go. Got the IR on here. We got some pretty good thunderstorms going across the Missouri into Illinois and back into Indiana and Ohio. I want to here. Let me switch this up for you. I wanted to show you the day cloud phase. Yeah, so we have two major systems. We got this mid-latitude low that's basically occluding up here. Looks like the low centered up near Wisconsin, Minnesota area, right up in this general area. And then we've got another upper level feature, upper level low pressure out over the west here with quite a bit of showers pretty much the whole entire west. The only area of the west that's not getting it is like parts of California into the desert southwest. Um, So yeah, so we got this front with those thunderstorms, like I said, going across Missouri into Illinois. There's some severe thunderstorms going on right now. I think there's a couple tornado warnings, and then the storms extend at least into Indiana. I'm not sure if they've gotten into Ohio yet. We'll look. Looks like a few storms up into Iowa and back in through Minnesota um, and Wisconsin, but those look a little more tame, not as dangerous. A lot of cloud cover back behind the front, up in the northern plains, down through Nebraska and Iowa. So that's what's going on there. Down south, this is not much in the way of thunderstorms. A lot of lower clouds from Tennessee, Kentucky, down through Arkansas and parts of the south here into East Texas. There might be one or two storms trying to develop out there in Texas, really isolated. We'll take a look. Looks like there might be a couple over South Florida too, and a little bit of clouds, low-level clouds hanging near the coast in South Carolina near Hilton Head and coastal Georgia and down into northern Florida. So, all right, so that's what's going on. Also looks like some low clouds hanging up there in the Pacific Northwest. So making for a dreary day out there. All right, so let's take a look at our surface observations. We'll start right here in the middle part of the country. So we got more isolated to scattered storms across southwest Missouri near Springfield area. A couple severe thunderstorm warnings. We'll zoom in so you can see those. Yeah, so there was a couple out in eastern Kansas, but they've moved off. They've kind of just died out, actually. A couple of pretty strong storms, especially as you get up north. We got some tornado warnings up here. Let's see, what part of the into Illinois and Missouri? Pittsfield, Illinois. So kind of out there in some of the rural areas north of St. Louis, which is down in this area. There are a few thunderstorms just to the north of them, nothing severe up there, but definitely got some tornado warnings out, and a tornado warning back here near Jefferson, Missouri, Jefferson City, and Columbia. Just went through Columbia, so yeah, so some pretty strong to severe thunderstorms out there. And then as we go through Illinois into Indiana, we got some pretty good thunderstorms with some heavy rains, maybe a little bit of hail, but no severe warnings. And then quite a bit of rain and some areas of maybe some moderate and heavy rain out here in parts of Indiana and Ohio. Maybe some embedded thunder in there. It looks like I see some lightning there and a thunderstorm reported there and back over here. So looks like there's some thunder in that line of storms going through that area. And looks like a little rain extends up into southern Michigan. Temperatures are pretty nice up there too, 60s and 70s. A little bit colder up there at the top, 58 at Alpena. We've got a lot of rain up here, some cold rain, 40s and 50s underneath that cloud shield up in Minnesota and Wisconsin. Back in the warmer sector, just near the cold front, we've got a few thunderstorms going on up here through Minnesota and parts of Wisconsin and eastern Iowa, and a few showers extend down into northern Missouri. So that's where the actual cold front is. This is more of a kind of a prefrontal type stuff. Yeah, down here. So just having a hard time getting the Alps to come up. We'll take a look down here. Pretty warm across the south. We've got some 80s, mid to upper 80s. Got some 80s and 90s across Texas, so getting pretty hot down there. 70s in Florida, some low 80s in the South Florida. There's a couple thunderstorms. Fairly isolated though, down near Fort Myers and southward over the middle of the what do they call it, Alligator Alley or something down through there. And then as we head up to the north, still a nice day across the east coast and eastern part of the country. Anyways, some 70s as you get farther north, some 60s closer to the coast, 50s like at Boston and JFK with that colder water blowing the cooler air inland, and even pretty nice in Maine. Look at that, 60s. So they're finally getting some, probably the warmest temperatures they've seen all season, or close to it. So a lot of showers out west. Don't really think there's a whole, it looks like there's some lightning there. Let's look at our convective signets. We might get a couple. Yeah, so we have one out there in parts of central Utah. So might be, yeah. That's about it out west. So yeah, not too many thunderstorms going on. Just a little bit out there in Utah. It's pretty cool. 40s and 50s. 42 in Salt Lake City and light rain. 50s for the most part across northern Nevada. Some 40s showing up in down in Ely and Tonopah, and 71 in Vegas. So pleasant day down there. It looks like the showers are north of them. 81 in Phoenix, 78 out here at Blythe, I think. Blythe Airport out there in the deserts of California. And some 60s here along the coast around LA and even San Diego. Actually, San Diego is, yeah, they're about 65, 66 degrees there. Cool at San Francisco, 63. And in the valleys, not too bad, upper 60s, mid to upper 60s. It looks like the few showers here up near the Sierras in California and up across the northern. And then just kind of scattered showers all across the northern part of the Rockies and the Pacific Northwest. Still a little chilly up there. I guess 30s and 40s out here in parts of Wyoming and Montana. So yeah, so a little chilly back there. Yeah, a little chilly in the northern plains. Some 40s showing up through here. With a little bit of breezy winds behind this, gusting up to about 30, maybe 35 miles an hour behind this low pressure system. So that's about it, really. So got a few severe storms, mainly in Missouri and Illinois right now. All right, so let's take a look at our model forecast. We'll switch this back over to the GFS. I'll give you a quick overview of the upper level dynamics again. Wrong one, sorry. That one's a little hard. This one's better. I like this one better. So this is the one I've shown you many times, showing our heights and vorticity at 500 millibars, which is approximately 18,000 feet above sea level. So you can see there's storm number 1 across the Midwest and up, you know, in the near the northern Great Lakes, and then the storm number 2 out west. All this yellow and orange is your upper level vorticity, which causes upward motion, which in turn creates clouds and precipitation and thunderstorms. So yeah, and looks like a little wave moving through with them thunderstorms we're seeing out here in Ohio and Illinois, Indiana. I mean, yeah, a little bit of energy across South Florida where we're seeing those thunderstorms. Yeah, so we got 2 main systems. That's the big story, and some minor perturbations with some of that thunderstorm activity ahead of the front. So as we go through tomorrow, this system starts to, all the energy starts to move up into Canada through the day on Tuesday, and with some lingering energy and some showers and maybe some thunderstorms up across New York and Pennsylvania, maybe a little bit farther south. We'll take a look at that. And then here's this next piece of energy coming out of the Rockies. So kind of back here, there's actually, this is what we call split flow. So we got kind of these northern systems up here, and then we got a southern system down here over the Nevada and California, and this one's up here in Montana, Idaho. So that's what's called a split flow in the meteorological world. So as we head into tomorrow afternoon, so we see this wave of energy kind of moving across the central and southern plains, and then another a short wave that kind of develops out of the across Texas and the south and southeast, and that's going to support all that thunderstorm activity down in this part along the cold front that's going to be hanging down in this part of the country tomorrow. That's going to cause some severe weather. And then we see that northern stream shortwave trough, as we call it, up there. So, and that may cause a little bit of weather, a little bit of precip and clouds. So, and then we got this next system out here with the trough out there in California, extending a little bit into Nevada. So, yeah, so that's for tomorrow afternoon and evening. As we go into Wednesday, so we see some energy still hanging across the south here. We're going to kind of have the remnants of that cold front hanging that from yesterday, or not yesterday, from Tuesday down across the south, kick off some thunderstorms down here with a chance of maybe some isolated severe, and we'll take a look at that. So a little energy down there, but you can kind of see this. This is going to bring in cooler air relatively as we start through Tuesday and Wednesday across the, northern half of the United States, I guess you could call it for the most part. The Northeast will still be kind of warm until this trough moves their way later in the week. But yeah, and then we see this. This is the wave that with that front that's moving through the Mid-Atlantic on Wednesday, and that'll cause some thunderstorms out through here on Wednesday, and that's with that second storm that was out here in the west. So it's kind of hard to keep track of all this, but I'm trying to keep it together. And this is just a broad area of lower pressure and heights, as we call it. So that's going to cause a little bit of unsettled weather up through there, and definitely bring in cooler air from Canada up through this part of the country. This will be our next weather maker here as we go later into the week. We see a little bit of energy going across Texas, so you kind of see this thing. So let's traverse through Thursday. So we got this bowling ball, as I call it, a low up into Canada, bringing a couple waves of energy up into the northeast and across the Great Lakes. So maybe a little bit of clouds and precipitation with that. We're still seeing kind of some weak little waves going across the south, so you still might see a few thunderstorms there. But we see this low that kicks out of the Pacific and moves through northern Mexico and then kind of up into Texas and the desert southwest. So that could bring some showers and thunderstorms as we go into Thursday and Friday across this part of the country. So that'll be our next storm. It looks like it'll keep everything pretty far south. This whole northern, with that split flow, you got the northern flow and the southern flow down here. That'll kind of, this bowling ball low, I guess you can call it, is going to keep these storms and thunderstorms kind of in the southern third of the U.S. Later in the week. So, yeah, so we'll just go through Friday. So that's what you're seeing in the upper levels at 500 millibars, or roughly 18,000 feet. So here's our surface depiction. We'll go back here in time. So this will be for the rest of tonight. We got that low pressure. So right now, it looked like it was up there near Minnesota, Wisconsin. That'll start to move up over Lake Superior and into Canada tonight. With some lingering rain across Minnesota and the UP of Michigan, northern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin. And then we'll see thunderstorms from roughly southern Michigan down south through, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, down through Kentucky and Tennessee and into Arkansas and parts of northeast Texas. There could be a couple storms down here extending farther south into Texas. And then we got a little bit of precip out here tonight across the west, not quite as widespread. You can see at night it kind of dies down. There'll be some, especially over the higher terrain, some mountain snows. So as we go through Tuesday, through the day on Tuesday, so kind of see what happens up here. See how the energy moves up. So this kind of detaches from this main front. Is kind of, you've got the cold front, but it's kind of weak, um, and the precip kind of starts to fade out along here, and then we see this low pressure kind of developing out here in this general area on the lee side of in like southeast Colorado, northeast New Mexico, and kind of a warm front develops across northern Texas into Oklahoma and extend across the south, and then there's kind of that weak front going back through, near the mid-Atlantic and down through parts of the southeast. So we'll see some showers and thunderstorms out here on Tuesday. Gets pretty well organized. A new low develops. You can kind of see it right there in kind of North Texas. And then it looks like it reorients up into Arkansas. And that's going to be where the focus of severe is going to be tomorrow evening. You kind of see that kind of presses east. So this whole area from southern Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, even a little bit of southern Illinois down through Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, northeast Texas, and Arkansas. That's going to be under the gun for some severe weather as we move into tomorrow afternoon and evening. Out west, you can see it's kind of dying down. That's because this system's moved out of the Rockies now. So we're not seeing as much showery activity. There's still a little bit, but not quite as numerous as it was earlier in the week and over the weekend. And then this is that energy that went up into Canada here. And that's kind of what that whole bowling ball low that develops up here. So as we go through the Wednesday morning, we're going to have some ongoing storms across the southeast. Some rain develops. That low kind of moves a little bit to the northeast up into looks like West Virginia and Kentucky on Wednesday and through the mid-Atlantic. So we can see some thunderstorms. There could be some isolated severe out through, the parts of the Appalachians out here into West Virginia and up through, North Carolina, Virginia, maybe South Carolina. And then some rain farther north into Pennsylvania and New York there. So along that frontal boundary with this low pressure. And then we kind of have it becomes kind of almost a stationary front, or just it's probably a really slow moving cold front moving across the south. So on Wednesday, this is where the focus of another severe, maybe into Texas, Louisiana, across the southeast here through Alabama, Mississippi, and Arkansas. The threat will shift a little farther south for at least some isolated severe. It doesn't look like a major outbreak of any sort. Still got some energy out of the northern Rockies into developing into the plains, and that's with that energy that was coming out of the Rockies. So this is what I told you, that stuff, that northern stuff, there might be a little bit of precip and clouds, so they're kind of showing some streaks here and there. So not everyone's going to be wet up there, but looks like there might be a little bit of precip up across parts of the plains and extending eastward into, Ohio, Illinois, Indiana. And here's that next system that's starting to develop. So we're starting to see some rain and storms fire up in New Mexico, parts of southern Arizona, into Texas, and even over through parts of the south as we go through Friday. So they don't have a lot of confidence in severe at this point. They'll just keep an eye on it for Friday, but yeah, it looks like it'll be wet and kind of a wet forecast with the system here. And it looks like the low pressure is like way down into northern Mexico, so it may keep this area a little bit cooler. So that'll keep the instability a little bit lower, and that'll kind of limit maybe the severe threat. So that's what it's looking like. And this is what I was telling you up here in the northeast with that energy. Yeah, see some rain start showing up there on Friday, even late Thursday. Yeah, that low pressure moves up through there. So yeah, that's what that whole low pressure And you can see with these blue lines, that's indicating the cooler air across this from the northern plains through the northeast here. By Friday, looks like it'll stay, fairly warm up through about midweek up in parts of the northeast, and then start to cool down as the rain arrives on Thursday and Friday up there. So yeah, so that's what it looks like. I'll show you the convective outlook and then a quick overview of temperatures, and try to wrap this thing up. So for today, yeah, they've got a pretty moderate, like a 4 out of a 5 risk level over parts of southern Illinois and southern Missouri. So like St. Louis down and down south here, watch out. And then the surrounding area, even Chicago down through Indianapolis, and parts of Memphis and Nashville, and even down into the Arklatex, into Shreveport area, Texarkana, and Little Rock. You guys will be under the gun for the rest of tonight, and that may extend overnight a little bit as that stuff presses east along that frontal boundary. So that's for the rest of tonight. Tomorrow, like we've been talking about, they've upped the risk across the Arklatex, which is this area here, into parts of northeast Texas and back all the way back. I mean, even the yellows go back into parts of Kentucky and Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi. So watch out down there. So fair tornado threat, especially across the Arklatex up into Oklahoma and Arkansas. Pretty decent wind and hail threat. So a good severe threat. That's for Tuesday. Let's go back to Monday and I'll show you what they're showing. Pretty high tornado threat across the southeast Missouri and to southern parts of Illinois. So watch out there. Pretty good wind threat too, and a hail threat. So yeah, so the next 2 days are pretty active. As we go into Wednesday, we're just seeing this marginal risk now from southern part of Texas and East Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama areas, northwest Florida, along this cold front down here. So we could see a few isolated, and then that low pressure that's kind of moving up into this area on Wednesday with this front. We may see some marginal across parts of the mid-Atlantic and back through like West Virginia. So watch out in that area. That's for Wednesday. After that, they don't have a lot of high confidence. But like I said, on Thursday and Friday down here, you'll see some thunderstorms. I mean, I guess you can't rule out maybe 1 or 2 isolated severes down along this frontal boundary down here across the Gulf Coast into Texas. So, and then Friday, it's kind of uncertain. I think at this point, there's probably not going to be a lot of severe. Maybe way down farther south in Texas, there might be enough instability for maybe 1 or 2 severe storms. But so we'll just keep an eye on it. It's a little far out, and there's there's not a lot of support for severe Thursday and Friday. So we'll just leave it at that. So like we've been advertising for a few days, we'll go back in time here. We'll start at Tuesday. So today, here, let's go back to Monday. This is today's highs, which you're seeing now. So still pretty warm all across this area. It's even in the 70s across the central plains and 90s down in Texas and 80s down here into the southern plains. 80s and 90s anyways. And then kind of cool out west, 40s and 50s. Farther south, it's warmer in Arizona and New Mexico and parts of California. But so as we move into tomorrow, this whole area behind that front, I mean, you saw like Kansas City is going to drop from the 70s down to like the low 60s. So it's going to be a nice day out here through the central plains. It's still hot down across the south, 80s and 90s, and it's still warm up here. So the front's kind of back into this area, and it looks like there'll be some rain up here. So the front kind of lags through there, but it's going to be still pretty warm in the northeast on Tuesday. And you can see it starts to cool down up here as that front pushes into the northeast on Wednesday. So the northern half of the country in the 50s, 60s, and 40s farther north starts to warm back up towards midweek out west, and even Texas, the northern parts dropping from what was it 90s to 70s. So they're going to drop 10 to 20 degrees depending on what part of Texas you're in on Wednesday, and that continues. Look at that, and it almost takes all the hot air except for like along the Gulf Coast, right along that front. That's where the warm air will be South Texas into Florida, and the Gulf Coast will be fairly warm. But yeah, this whole part of the United States kind of cool. Yeah, and then Friday, kind of the same story here. Still pretty cool across the entire eastern half of the country. Not too bad across the west, some 60s and 70s, and warmer across interior parts of California and the desert Southwest, at least in Arizona. All right, well that's all I've got for you. Hey, hope you have a good work week. Hopefully your Monday went well. Mine was so-so, but that's how it goes sometimes. Anyways, hey, have a great day. Invite your friends, your family, kids, and grandkids. Let them learn a little more about weather. This is Wixman Ray out.